Welcome to Sink or Swim, presented by Squid Group, your digital marketing partner. The state of education in New Zealand is changing, and I speak with Tristan O'Hanlon, a lecturer from Auckland University, about how he is starting a new school in Auckland. From the failures of NCEA to the need to take risks and get real experience, we talk all things education. Hope you enjoy it. Sweet, welcome. Thanks a mil for joining me, Tristan.
No problem, Laurence. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah,
my old student.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been what, at least
2008.
Yeah,
it was the first time I taught you, and then I had you in 2009 as well, I think.
Yeah,
for year 11.
And I mean, things have changed. You were teaching at what, St. Peter's, and now you're a lecturer at Auckland University.
Yeah, it's quite a jump.
Yeah,
my gosh, that was a lifetime ago.
So maybe I'm quite keen to talk about the whole schooling system and everything else like that, because I know that you've got some quite exciting disruptive things happening and you're opening your own school. But before we go down that path, tell me a little bit more about yourself, how you got into teaching, and then, I think this podcast is going to be pretty easy for us just to have a chat.
Yeah, sure thing. So got into teaching. I had the idea of teaching at quite a young age. So really it was two teachers that had a very formative influence on me. One of them at intermediate school, just going into intermediate school, I felt like I was a bit brain dead. I really liked maths, but I had no direction, had a bunch of good friends. But the teacher that I had there, I was quite shy. And he was very, not strict, but he worked purposely for me in particular to push me and to get me out of my shell and to put me in really uncomfortable situations. And that had just an enormous influence on me. And what I appreciated about that, though, is it's like he took the time to get to know me and just knew what my barriers were and pushed me in those directions. I haven't had a teacher like that since, like someone that would actually take the time to look at each individual kid and go, what do you need? What do you need? Like, How can I just bring the best out of you? Just incredible. And the other one was a teacher that I had at high school who just recognized that I was good at maths and just took the time to encourage me. And just that really simple thing, just getting to know me and taking the time, again, it didn't happen in any other sphere of influence. So with that, I just took many opportunities to form myself in that direction. And I just kept thinking, I want to have this power. I want to do that for other people.
Yeah.
That was, I guess the birth of that idea. And I was such a geeky kid and I had geeky friends and just we all loved science and loved maths. And just in that environment where you just want to teach and help people, it was kind of a no-brainer of a career to get into. And going into university, I had the same drive as well. Yeah.
And so what inspired you, I guess, to become a school teacher? Because I mean, you're good at physics, clearly, but teaching isn't exactly where you make money doing physics.
No, not at all. So I was involved with a church group at university, which dealt with young people. So kind of a youth group. I really enjoyed doing that and just being part of the leadership of that role. So you're really getting into supporting people on a purposeful journey, and that journey is never easy. And it's not, when issues happen with teenagers, it's never one and done. It's a process and it's a journey. So when you learn to be around teenagers quite a lot and you learn to empathize and just be with them on that journey and be forgiving every step of the way, if you just do that for a while, you see progress and you see amazing things happen because you're dealing with people with potential who need support. And just that was such a fulfilling thing. And even at university, when I did some teaching assistant roles, just getting alongside people, supporting them was just something that just brought a lot of fulfillment. So to just those two things especially. And now I can't imagine doing anything else. So even in my role here as a lecturer, that's what I see myself as doing, just supporting students on their journey. Yeah. I can't really imagine doing much else.
And how did you even get into lecturing?
So my journey from St. Peter's College, my first job, there's this whole thing there, but this is just moving from school to school. As a teacher, you brought up money, right? So you do your job as a teacher. If you want to make more money and just, start a family and support yourself and buy a house. Really, the only way to do that is to move into management or to move into other areas where you're sort of recognized for your talents. Because unfortunately, there's no role or pay rise for superstar teacher. There is for you become a dean, you become a head of department. Yeah. So I took the journey to head of department at ACG Parnell, incredible school with an incredible leader who I learned a lot from, an incredible man. But the opportunities I had there just to stretch myself and do crazy things brought me to the attention of University of Auckland, and they wanted a teaching fellow, someone that is just here to teach and brings expertise in teaching. And I applied on, I guess, a risk, so I was moving away from quite a nice position at that school, and they picked me up full time, and now I'm having a great time. Just the restrictions you have at university and teaching, that you're in a department which is expected to be high performing. So you're sort of left with the trust on your own to just, okay, Tristan, we trust you. Do this paper, make it excellent. And I love having that freedom.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, from my experience, you were a relatively non-linear science teacher. I mean, I guess science teachers are always a little bit kind of non-linear because you're a little bit kind of finding ways to do like crazy chemistry experiments or whatever. So like there is a certain degree of that. But I also like remember when we were in school, and we briefly talked about it just before around how we went to Brisbane to do that hydrogen fuel cell technology conference, and like gave us that opportunity as a class to be like, who wants to apply for this? And those sort of things, I guess, were obviously entrenched with what you were doing then, and has just been exacerbated with the right leadership, right?
Yeah. Just what's crazy about those sorts of opportunities, like that was my first year of teaching when these sorts of things come up. And it's one of my bugbears about just many schools and just education, at least in this country in general. There are so many opportunities for kids anywhere you go, just all over New Zealand and overseas as well. Things that you can put your mind to and achieve and do, like that hydrogen fuel cell conference all the way back then, that if you just give kids an opportunity, you'll always be surprised how many just want to run with it and take it. But it's actually quite a rare thing for people to just put that in front of students. Trying to find a better way to say it. I would be surprised that opportunity. I think it was one of the universities in Australia that just advertised this opportunity to Australia and New Zealand. I would be surprised if we were probably the only school, or just one of 10 schools in the country that actually advertised it to students.
Yeah.
And that really frustrates me, because teachers, departments, schools get these things all the time. But
I guess it's extra work, right? And people get to that point where it's like, I don't want, like...
But that's the job.
Exactly. I know, I get that. But I guess that's the hard thing, right? Is in teaching, there is a certain amount of being a student. Like I remember certain teachers at school which had a big impact on me. Some of them because they were just like your mate. Yep. And because of that, there was a degree of respect. Like Pasco Nichols, probably one of the most legendary teachers. Yeah. He did geography, and he was just a really good teacher that everyone respected. But then there was other teachers who they didn't, relate to students.
Yep.
And because of that, they get a lot of pushback, right? They get, and they sort of, and kids are evil. Like even with probably you, definitely wasn't a perfect student. But I think there's a degree of respect that you have, whereas some teachers, who it is that they don't even really want to be there. Yep. So they're not going to put those opportunities forward, right?
That's probably the heart of the issue. And unfortunately, that's, that in all schools, that's rather common, unfortunately.
Because we didn't even have to pay to go to Brisbane, did we?
It was a full scholarship. And all you had to do was just get organised, write an essay, and just do a little bit of research, which you and the other 3 that came with you just all did. And it was just me saying, this seems really cool. Just have a go at this.
Yeah.
And that was a big formative experience for me, just knowing that type of thing is possible and accessible. I went to town on that stuff.
Yeah, well, and 100%. And like on that, like that brings up, I forgot to tell you that the podcast is called Sink or Swim. Welcome
to Sink or Swim.
Yeah, but I think that's the whole thing, right? Where I've got to as a business owner and as a previous sportsman and everything, it was always a dive in and don't worry about the consequences necessarily, but dive in and just see where it takes you.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, a perfect example of that when we were in, year 9 or year 10?
You're in year 10, yeah.
Yeah, and you just were like, oh, well, what's the harm that can come from applying for that scholarship? Or what's the harm that can come from applying for a job that you potentially aren't sure about, but once you get given the opportunity to even go to the job, then you can make the decision to say yes or no, right?
What's interesting about that is, I fully agree with that. When I did this, it was kind of a no thought, here, kids, let's do this opportunity. But after that, once you guys were successful, I had to go to the board, I had to write like a little business case, and I didn't realize how many barriers there were to actually doing this. There was a conversation where they were worried about me, going just because being a first year teacher, and that's kind of fair enough, but just all these barriers to kind of cross in the way. So that was kind of eye opening as well. Mm. Yeah.
It's not a linear, easy path.
No, it's not, but it was good because you have to learn to navigate those cultural things just in a school and those barriers. But once you do, there's a sort of freedom you can guide yourself in, which not many people are aware of. You just have to take a chance and just do it. Yeah.
And so what would you say is your opinion? Because there's a lot of chat right now around education in New Zealand, potentially globally, but let's just talk about New Zealand. And what's your opinion of where New Zealand's at right now and how the education system is?
I'm not thrilled with where we are, to be perfectly blunt. If I look at the last maybe 30 years of just assessment changes and the diminishing of just core content knowledge, especially in the sciences especially, it kind of breaks my heart. It's like we've been a bit of a science experiment on just pedagogy and learning at all different levels of the curriculum. I'm very traditional in my viewpoint, in my, I guess, way in which I think education should be. And that's, purely from, research and experience and where I am now. And it's kind of gone back to a more... I'm a big fan of just classical education. Just from what I've seen and all the examples I've seen of just things not working. So in general, I'm not very happy at all, especially with just what's happened with the NCEA review that's just happened, which the current government has sort of put on hold for the time being. But that was not a very nice process, especially for the sciences where at the year 11, level 1 level, just the standards diminishing, the respect for numeracy and, that going away to focus more on things that I don't really think help students become good scientists. So, yeah, my impression's not great.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, what sort of education do you see being of most value? Maybe not necessarily just for sciences, but obviously that's going to be easiest for you to talk to. But what's the way that you see growth and opportunity?
This is a really difficult one because ultimately I think the standards have to be higher. There's a wonderful website called 80,000 Hours. It's by a non-profit group which did some work with the University of Oxford. And they've put a lot of work into just looking at, 80,000 hours is about the time you have for a career, right? To really make a difference, to do something. And if you think about the next sort of 50 to 100 years, what critical roles in society do people need to have to really make a difference, for change and tackling some of the, most important issues of our time? A lot of those roles require quite strong technical expertise, but a lot of people management, policy management, project management. These are serious skills that, require a very serious education. if I look towards those things and I look at, say, the state of the current NCEA, science and maths and just the way that kind of clocks along to get people into a tertiary education, I don't think the bar is high enough. In a nutshell, that's where I put things, just that the standard needs to be higher. And the strange thing is there are a lot of other places which do an excellent job. And my question is always just, why can't we copy them?
Yeah. Like where?
The Singapore mathematics curriculum, like they're touted in all of the international studies as the best in the world. There's nothing magic really about that. It's just a form of education which most of the country follows, which is just excellent. Just, I want to do that. The University of York over in the UK, they put a lot of work into trying to design just the ultimate science curriculum that can lead students on to a good higher secondary school education, Cambridge or O-levels or whatever they go into, but at least the fundamentals are extremely strong. Just why can't we use that as our middle school and junior science curriculum? Science is essentially the same everywhere. Just that is a gold standard.
Yeah. And so
I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. And I think New Zealand's tried to do that a few times where I just really don't think it's necessary. And wasting that precious time, especially for the middle school students, the young students going into secondary, it's a bit of a shame. So I don't want to come across as too negative. I think about this stuff all the time. And these opinions are, purely from, my experience in schools and tertiary as well. But I do feel very strongly about these things.
And I guess we did briefly talk about it just before, but around like maths, because I personally think maths is really valuable as a subject. Not because you use maths every day, like no one's going to use Pythagoras' theorem.
Some people do.
Some people do. But like 95% of people aren't going to be deep in geometry or all those sort of things where it's like you use these trigonometry maths, which is just, it's arguably useless. But the thing which is interesting about it is it teaches you a system, right?
Yeah.
It teaches you that to get from A to D, you have to follow B and C. And with that, you can potentially get there from different paths. But at the end of the day, there's a process that until you learn that for different equations, you don't have that. And I feel like solving those problems is so important because you don't need to necessarily know every question or know every answer. But at the end of the day, there's lots of ways of getting around that. And that's like starting a business. You can start a business that solves a specific problem and build it in a certain way to solve that problem. But you can also have another product that does the exact same thing and hits a different market or does a different thing. And you look at that with brands. You have a brand like Countdown's Pams, but then you have a premium product which hits the exact same audience, but some people don't want to be seen with Pams in their fridge, and other people want to have the exact same product but a different brand, right?
Yeah, I find that line of reason, that type of thinking, that's in terms of how that's applied to business and marketing, that type of thinking is very, very new to me. But your point about just mathematical reasoning, just you're learning fluency, and you're building upon you're building skills of deduction and logic, and ultimately how to make an argument. The classical model of schooling, by the way, which I'm a big fan of, is a 3-tier model, which you could apply anywhere, business as well. But you start younger students on a grammar system, which is that they absorb some facts and reasoning. They learn the language and just cultural norms about the world where they are. Then you get onto logic, where students can start putting patterns together and reasoning. You're teaching how to argue, teach how to make an argument based on logic and putting things together. And then you end up at rhetoric, where you've got all of those tools and experience where you can start being original, doing things yourself. But that's all built around having a fundamental base of knowledge and reasoning and understanding and connectedness about the world before I think you can really do that and take it to the next level.
But how does that impact you then, depending on your social background, right? Because certain kids...
It's a massive question.
Do you think that the same model arguably works for the same demographics?
I would argue it would. What you have there, though, to unpack is, are schools equipped to do that in certain places? Are teachers trained in doing that properly? If you've got 30 or 40 students in a class, is that ever going to be effective? So you bring up barriers there, which, in an ideal world, I think so. Yeah, barriers can make that very, very difficult.
Well, I guess that also talks the next thing, which is interesting, is I know that there's the whole classroom element where people are now have up to 90 kids in a classroom in primary school.
Yeah, the modern learning environments.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that, because the science behind that, and if there is any. But alongside that, just from a personal experience from some teachers that we know that teach in that environment, they've said that they've come from the UK, they've come out here to teach, they're teaching there, and they feel like kids get lost in the cracks. Yep. And then the kids that are learning are getting an okay education, but it's still not that great because their class is separated by such a disparity.
Yeah. I would agree that it's not ideal at all. I'm not a fan of those environments at all. Falling through the cracks is, something I worry about for my kids as well. And, the research is pretty clear that, in larger schools, not just in larger classrooms, but larger schools, this is a, big danger of happening. Feedback is one of the most important things that leads to achievement for young people. I don't see how you can do a good job in an environment like that to make sure that every student is exactly where they're at and knows where they should go next. I don't want this to turn into a massive rant, but I am not a fan of those environments at all.
Yeah.
Just there's something special about a classroom and what a teacher brings to it. Just once you close that door and it's just you and your students, you're kind of creating this little subculture of your own. And there needs to be risk and passion there. And I think that gets diminished if it's shared. But ultimately, the best teaching comes out of the best relationships. And yeah, with very, very large classes, that's just never going to happen. Yeah.
Mm. And so tell me a bit about the school that you're starting, because it sounds like an interesting sort of model. So yeah, hit me with why you're doing it.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, imagine that, you're going to your friends at a barbecue and, you've got some teachers there. Just my friend group, I am absolutely blessed to have. So I've got teachers, some of which I would call the best teachers in the country. I have people who are very experienced in business. So one of my friends has started his own IT company at 19. It's very successful. The other one owns or runs the largest gaming company in New Zealand, Grinding Gear Games, just out in Henderson. So 180 people making this, worldwide video game. So, talking to people like this, in teaching, it's a very emotional job, and there are many, many factors to that. But, to cool down, you talk to your mates and have a beer and you complain about the world and you solve the world's problems. So, you can just imagine those sessions. And when you've got capable people asking you, well, what are you going to do about it? What should be done about it? What are you going to do next week? It just raises, I guess this is how businesses get started, right? Yeah. Just, well, how am I going to solve this? What am I going to do about it? And with the issues I brought up with, and these are common to, in our little group as well, just we don't think NCEA is setting a high enough standard. We're worried about the diminishing of content. We are especially worried just in a business sense of just New Zealand lacking in innovation and productive enterprise. Like there are nice hot pockets, but we need to do better just for our economy, for our country. It's a massive thing. All of those things together just point towards, well, just young people are capable of so much. And if you're getting kids that are really wanting or have a passion for science, technology, mathematics, where is there a place for them to go? And having my viewpoint at tertiary level, I get to be involved in lots of schools in the New Zealand physics community. There are places where this is happening in an amazing way. Just that there are some amazing schools. But the market that we're looking at is just West Auckland, where we just feel we could really make an impact. So you're thinking, okay, all these issues that we want to solve, all these things that we strongly believe in, high standards, a worldwide view of education, just bringing in the absolute best, getting the best teachers, having small classes, dedicating time for feedback, and also dedicating time for students to explore their passions. Just, can you build a flexible model there? So what do? The next week you go, okay, hey Ben, let's try and cost this out. Just, what would this actually cost? Okay, so you do the sum and go, okay, it costs, we need all this stuff. Okay, it's this amount per student. Okay, just where would we do it? And then you're around, amazing people that have built their companies, and they have this mindset, which, being a teacher for a long time, we don't necessarily get exposed to, kind of that entrepreneurial spirit of, well, just do it. All right, okay, let's find some land. Okay, we've bought some land. Okay, what is the building going to look like? Okay, design that building, and then it just
compounds,
comes up, and you've costed it. You've got a good business case. You've got good rationale. You're building this on really strong values and strong experience. You're getting the best people, and it suddenly just happens. And now we've got a school which we're putting together. Yeah. Yeah.
And how does that work with, I'm assuming that your curriculum is not going to be focused on NCEA. So how do you go around that with like government? Because would they not fund it, I'm assuming?
Good question. So we're going to do Cambridge. Just a bit of background there. We're committing to be a small school. I really believe that you want a successful school from the beginning, to deal with things like pastoral care, bullying, all of those things that are sort of these risk factors in a young person's life. Like that, this is an important aspect of a school. I want a strong school community. I want to know all the families. I want all the kids to know each other, the parents to know each other's families. You get to a certain size, that just gets lost, and the research backs us up as well.
And what size would you say that is, sorry?
140, 150. This is what I'm total school number, okay? Just to build a really strong community which just values learning. To do that, though, you then look at your parameters. Okay, what are the restrictions here? That means we can't offer every subject. That's fine. But we want the flexibility of doing things our way, and we're going to be a STEM school, effectively. It's a pure focus on science, technology, mathematics, English being at the heart of our school, like argument, debate, literature. That's the absolute heart. So you have all of this, and then you ask the question, okay, how do you become a school? Like, what's the parameters? Well, you can start a private school. You need a certain minimum number of enrollments, but you actually get a lot of freedom to design your own curriculum, your own policies. It's surprisingly loose, I'd put it that way. There's reporting that you have to do, but a private school can dictate its own way of doing things, because really it's a parent's choice if they want to do that or not. So the ministry gives you a package of, this is what you need to fulfill to become a school. So we're doing all of that now. And if you follow that, and they've been very helpful actually, to bring this thing out.
And so how does it work then with your number? Because that's interesting. So 120 from what year levels?
So we're doing year 7 to 13. That's the other thing. In West Auckland, there's a lot of research about this too. Just a school that goes from year 7 to 13. So this has a intermediate school there as well. There are so many things that I guess fixes, just in terms of continuity and culture and readiness for the higher academic subjects. You'd want to do that from year 7, because at that age, oh man, they're sponges. That there's so much potential at those ages, where if you've got a separate intermediate, this is a worldwide problem, by the way. There can be a bit of decoherence, from a 2-year intermediate school going to, some other. And there has been efforts to try and fix that in New Zealand with community of learning, just so high schools and intermediate schools can have some talks to each other. But it's varying results, I feel.
Yeah.
So 140 is our number, but what we sacrifice there is you need about 300-ish students to get a full curriculum, to make it cost effective, but also, to make sure that, there aren't timetabling clashes and things like that. So we're a school with a very particular focus. Our market is for students that have an inclination or a disposition to want to go into mathematics, science, technology, with high academic expectations. So we know that there's a market for it. So that's the school we're going to build. We're going to do this extremely well.
Cool. And how do you think the change with AI is impacting education, but also just science?
Okay. Oh, that's a great question. Man, you're good at this. First of all, I want students to build their own AI, right? Just their own learning model, learn how to do it. Like programming is going to be a massive part of our curriculum. But, understanding exactly how that works and its potential is something you can build into your programming curriculum. And unfortunately, a lot of schools don't have the expertise to do this. So this is one thing here. But I'm a firm believer that teaching is about relationships. AI has the ability to synthesize a lot of information and make, directions. There's a fad at the moment of just AI teaching tools, which just gives students pathways into doing the next thing. But a good teacher, I don't think you'll ever replace. Just someone that can build a relationship alongside a kid, help them with their purpose, and give that kind of oversight direction, like a good coach, right?
Yeah.
Just that's what a good teacher brings. However, AI tools, though, for teachers, that could be a potential game changer, just in terms of administration, bureaucracy, fixing that stuff. Just there's more time, to have time in the classroom just to focus on the important things. So that we are going to use that sort of thing, but that'll be in the background administrative side rather than the, relational side.
Yeah. So how do you feel AI is impacting science as a whole around physics and things like that?
It's making a lot of things easier in the big data space. One great application I saw recently was, and this is what I did my master's degree in, if you're getting a lot of data from climate models and satellites, that's an enormous amount of data. And usually you're looking for, patterns over time, or trying to model, say, where clouds are going to be in the atmosphere, what type of cloud, how high is it, blah, blah, blah. And so you're analyzing a lot of images and doing that sort of thing. You can build algorithms to do that, but they're quite slow. And if you try and make predictions based on those things, well, you've got varying successes. But recently, people have been trying to train AI models on, these massive data sets. And some of them have been just absolutely awesome. And just around the world, the Large Hadron Collider uses a massive data sets to analyze their collisions. The climate space is rife with it. Astronomy is rife with it. If you've got something that can turn a massive amount of data into, interesting and hopefully correct predictions based on data you feed it, that's only going to save a lot of frustrating labor. I think it's a wonderful thing.
So do you think it won't, because lots of people are worried that it's going to replace humans. It's pretty interesting when you see some of the robots being built that can...
Incredible.
Yeah, but there's definitely jobs that are going to change. There's some simple roles which will be replaced by AI robots.
Yep.
But how are you seeing that change within, not just a university, but in terms of a science realm of, I guess, your job is now different because data, for example, can be processed?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure yet. I brought up that 80,000 hours project, which looks at, future jobs and what they entail. A lot of them are still about human decision-making, which, directs wisdom into how these things are used. And I think that's always going to be important.
But would just on that though, would AI, as it becomes smarter, it arguably would become almost have more wisdom because it would have more data sets to pull from, which could expand over a longer period of time?
Maybe. This is a good philosophical question. I'm in two minds about it, because in science, we've got a tool that directs us towards hopefully the truth about things, or at least a clearer model of the universe and how nature works. And I think any tool that allows us to pursue that better is a good thing, because ultimately that's why we're here, right? To just gain a deeper insight of nature. If I'm a hand-on-heart scientist, I'm thinking, man, that's cool. And if I can delve deeper into that, secondary is the personal thing, that if I'm a scientist, it's my job. that's another worry. But just philosophically, just, I don't know, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like economics though, right? Like Elon Musk said this ages ago. He said that there will come a time, in his opinion, where society will have to be on a living wage because so many basic roles will no longer exist. And as an economy, you won't have a place, and then you'll have to, from a mental health perspective even, find purpose for those people to do things.
Thing is, and I said I was in two minds about this, because there's the scientific truth aspect, but the other mind is, I don't know if I'd ever be comfortable with that kind of thing personally, because we're a relational species. Like, if I want to do business with someone, I want to build a relationship. I want to talk to someone. And I want to be part of that culture. And I don't know. I don't speak for everyone there, but I'd still want to, live in a world which values that. Just where you can look at the ingenuity and the art form of doing certain things. It's pretty obvious to me. I guess we're still in the infancy of this technology, but it's pretty obvious when something is human created versus, AI or computer related. I appreciate the human thing more, even if it might not be technically as sound, because those mistakes are, I think, things to celebrate. You can see the labor and the hard work in that, which is someone's person. And, teaching speaks to that too. You're sort of building purpose and dignity. And I think as a species that we need to celebrate that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a waffle, but there are things I don't think it will replace. And I think we'd actually be surprised at how much it does replace, to be honest. Yeah.
So in terms of working at St. Peter's ACG University, what have you learned around like the business side of actually making it a viable model for all of them? Like university, you're obviously pitching for grants and all the rest, but how does that work? How's that changed?
Very, very difficult. So in a school in New Zealand, things are sort of done very similar ways at public and private schools. Like, you've got this many teachers for this many students and this many admin staff, and you don't really notice that when you're in the system. And it took me a while to really appreciate that. But when we started costing our school, it was like, okay, just what's going to be effective here? You sort of run into the same barriers. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why it's that way. So yeah, that's been kind of a curious recognition, just to appreciate, the barriers that you have, just why are they a certain way. That doesn't mean we can't be flexible and do things differently. And we will. Just one of our timetable classes in the week is where there's no timetable. Fridays at our school are going to be simply free for students to explore their purpose and work on bigger projects, just so they have time to do that. But yeah, costing all of that in has been a bit of an eye-opener, just looking at the economics of it. Yeah. Just really, you're looking at about $20,000 to $25,000 per student, which it takes to run a normal school. Yeah, and it's a surprising figure to come up with kind of on your own, just costing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, do you find that business itself will be something that you teach? Because one of the things that's my personal pet peeves is when I look at school, you don't learn anything about running a business or about what it is to even get financial literacy, because when you leave school, you're like, hey, I can get a credit card now. And then suddenly people just go and, you know what I mean? Like there's very little literacy, in my opinion, around what it takes to run a business, what it looks like to run a business, is the application.
I cannot wait to do this stuff. I think a lot of young people have the ability to do this type of thing from a much younger age, especially if they have a skill or just something they're really, really passionate about. And you're absolutely right. I don't think this literacy is really brought to the forefront for a lot of students until much later. Yes, we are definitely going to this. In fact, with one of the mandates from two of our business partners is, innovation, just business, accounting, just how to start a business, how to deal with tax. Just our students are going to do it. And there's time for that, which is the wonderful thing about it. if you can bake that into your curriculum, especially for your senior students who have developed an idea about their purpose, which will certainly help them on, they need to be exposed to this. I mean, my dream for this school and the ultimate success is you'll have students that want to go into tertiary education, probably by and large go into science, engineering, or medicine, and we'll help them get there. But if we can help students start a business and just have a skill that they can get out of school with to build something, that would be wonderful. How amazing would that be? All of our students will be able to code. They'll have a website from a very early age. They'll have all these fundamental skills in networking, information security, data science, all of this stuff. They'll be able to program in 3 languages that will build them up to proficiency, and just some of them will just be able to run. And how awesome would that be?
Yeah, I think I hope that it works out for you, mate, because the thing with all of that is I look at, even for me, I started my first business when I was 16.
Yeah, that's
and I come from a family, yes, who has their own businesses, but they weren't the ones that told me to do it. I just went out and did it.
Yep.
And got it to a certain size. I started getting some stuff with some relatively big companies because I was just undercutting who they currently use.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just shut it down because it got too big and I kind of was a bit too stressful for a 16-year-old. And I wanted to go and meet girls.
Of course.
But the thing with that is that I didn't do that because of school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if lots of kids did have those fundamentals of not just accounting, but what it takes to run a business. Like my business mentor, his son started a little business and it was a candle making business, which was epic. He had lots of people. He learnt the cost of what it actually cost to get the glass jar, fill it up with candle wax, and then to sell it. And he realized that, okay, I actually have to sell this. Maybe overcharge me a little bit, but you do what you do. But like suddenly you're paying for a little candle for $20.
Yeah.
And he learned that, okay, of that $20, he's only going to make a profit. I'm going to hope he only made a profit of $5 each candle, but potentially more. And then because of that, he learns the process of business, right? And a real handle.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story. Imagine though, if you've got kids in an environment where this is just something that they do as part of their school.
Yeah.
And it's not just a kid being on their own, like you having to do it on your own. It's just everyone's doing it. So you've then got a support network. And, the buy-in you'll get from parents and also bringing in people to help you and mentor you alongside. And that's the other wonderful thing, just the context we've got just in the small and medium business world. Like we've talked to people that just want to come in and do it. Just there's no shortage of people that are keen to help. It seems like a no-brainer. But one of the reasons we're starting the school is for issues just like this. Just if you ask a regular school which has got a timetable in place with a very, very large cohort, how do you find time to do that with an already existing culture in school and set of restrictions? It's something that I really think you need to bake in right from the start and just seriously think about how you might do these things. We've done the same thing with field trips. Okay, we want to go out and visit that business, visit that organization. Well, we've got a day in the week, every week, where we can just go. There's no interruption to the core of what we're doing.
And so just on your number of kids then, 140, that's from year 7 to
year
13. How many kids is that in each year level?
20.
So there's basically one class per year level.
Yep, we have vertical tutorials. What that means is you've got your core curriculum, so 4 days a week. Students learn the fundamentals of the subjects we're going to focus on. But you've got these tutorials which involve all the students. Students are given projects or tasks, but they're all in the same room with the older kids and the younger kids. So there's shared expertise there and all of that dynamic.
How does that work then with sport as well? Because is there a sport element?
Yeah, so where we are, we've got a beautiful venue next to just out in West Auckland, Mira Sports Facility. This place is amazing. So again, we've got our core curriculum, but the day during the week where we have that free time, that's baked into it too. So as a school, you have to do, health and sex education. So that has to be as part of the curriculum. That's where we do it. We have a day where we've got flexible planning. This is a day where you do physical education and those things for the younger students.
And so how does this scale up then? Because great that you've got 140 kids, that's cool, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of kids that...
It doesn't. Now, this might seem like a weird thing, but if it got too big, it would lose what it needs to be. And that doesn't fit the normal, we need to grow, we need to, gain more, but that's not what this is about. This is for a very specific purpose. So looking at a 10-year plan for this, like scaling up to 140, there's only a certain profit margin for this, which all of us, the 4 directors, have to be very comfortable with. This is, not going to be a multi-million-dollar endeavor. We're building a school because we feel we need to build a school. And so this will sustain us as things go forward, and just looking at inflation and things like that, but it's there for a specific purpose. If we had to, I don't even know what the future would hold there, but this is for a very specific purpose, giving those students the absolute best science, tech, and maths education.
So would you see it potentially rolling out that if it went really, really well in, say, Auckland, you'd potentially do another school in another city? Or do you think it's...
Maybe.
My business mind can't look at things and... Oh, it can a little bit, but I would...
Most important for me is, okay, the students that we get, they're getting the best. They're getting the best teachers. Just, we're not accepting less than the absolute best teachers in the country. That's what these kids are getting exposed to. The more successful we are, my hope there is that, we've got, more things we can do with the teachers we've got in terms of upskilling and giving them amazing experiences, or people wanting to come in and help our kids and give them the best experiences. That's all I'm really worried about. Just what is the absolute best? Where are we going to find it? And how can I launch these kids to the moon? Just how can I help my students get into not just the University of Auckland, but get into Harvard? Just all of our kids can do it. That's the other thing that bugs me. Just, our students are capable of so much more. Just the opportunities are there. Just all it takes is just to put the infrastructure around them to show, there it is. You can go here and do something amazing.
And how would it work then with people? I'm assuming that it's a private system. So what about kids like, say, St. Kitts and King's who provide scholarships for different kids? Would that be something that you would...
Yeah, absolutely. Just once we get to that point, absolutely.
Yeah.
The heartbreaking thing is, you in a private model, you have to, charge this amount per student. But there are students out there which are absolutely have this disposition that you want to give that to, and absolutely, of course, this is a school for students that want to learn. Yeah.
Cool. So, well, I've got one final question for you.
Yeah.
And it's probably the hardest question I'm going to ask you.
Uh-oh.
And it is, what would be your superpower?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it doesn't matter who's in front of me, which kid, no matter what age, I can get them excited about something. If you give me a kid, I'll make them excited about physics. Yeah, give me 5 minutes.
Really? So
Give me 5 minutes.
it'd be being like a super teacher.
I think I'm pretty good. But I think that's something I can do well. You come and watch my lectures sometime. That's my goal. Just, can I give someone a moment? Just, this is cool. Wow, I really appreciate nature in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been great to have you on. Super interesting.
This is so good to catch up with you.
And
I'm really proud of what you're doing, by the way. This is incredible. Yeah.
Cool. No, it's an exciting little journey we're on. And no doubt we'll be in touch, and I can't wait to hear more about your school.
Cheers. It's
Sweet.
been a fun ride.
Sweet. Thanks for tuning in to another Squid Group podcast. If you're looking for a marketing partner to grow your brand, business, or event, contact us here at Squid Group. See you next time.